Hey YouTube, Kevin Cleary here. This is an introduction to the video you're about to watch. I'm going to ask you a question about this cold steel American Lawman. The review is coming up in a second, but I want to refinish this blade. You can see that the Teflon coating is already coming off really extensively. I kind of knew that was going to be the case, and so I bought this knife having already watched the Apostles video about taking it apart, stripping that coating off, and doing something else. What I'm looking for from you is some suggestions as to what to do with that. I have two purposes for this. One, I'd like to make this knife really cool for myself, but also there are a lot of people who own cold steel knives, and guess what? They're probably every one of them, the coating is coming off. So let's give them some good options as to how they might be able to do something different with that. Any suggestions, let me know, and I will do a follow-up video later on the suggestion that I pick. So what I'm asking for is some suggestions, you know, maybe satin finish or mirror polish or bead blast or whatever, acid etching, whatever you'd like to see happen once I strip the Teflon coating off of this blade. Alright, so let me know what you think, and I will do a follow-up video once that work is completed to let you know how it looks and even describe some of the process. Hey YouTube, talk to you later. I got a really cool knife to share with you today. It is the cold steel American Lawman, Andrew Demko designed, very versatile knife. This knife comes in at a great size and weight. It is about 4.5, 4.7 ounces. This particular one weighs on my scale 4.7 ounces. Overall length is 8 1/8 inches. You got about 3.5 inches of blade and about 4.5 inches of handle. It's actually a little more than that, which is why you end up with 1/8 of an inch extra. But very comfortable size and weight. The handle thickness is 1/2 inch on that. So just for comparison, there is the Spyderco Paramilitary 2, and it's literally the exact same length. Now the blades and all that kind of stuff, they play out a little different in terms of the ratio, but they're very close in size. To give you a couple of different examples, here's the Recon 1. You can see that it's much larger. And here's the Code 4. Now, one comment I will make, and this is one of the reasons, you know, if you haven't seen the Code 4 video, Code 4 is a fantastic blade, and I should do a follow-up video on it. It actually weighs a little less than the American Lawman, and yet look at the size comparison. You're getting a bigger knife in a lighter and even thinner package. Now, obviously, the handle is larger because you have an overall larger knife, but that I would say that they have similar roles in terms of being very good everyday carry knives that can flex into a lot of other roles very nicely. Let's get into the blade. One of the things that makes this knife as cool and as awesome as it is this blade. It's extremely well done. First, there's this finger choil, which allows you to choke up and do some fine cutting tasks. Next is the very high hollow grind, and because of that high hollow grind, you have a very thin bit of steel behind the cutting edge, which makes it a fantastic slicer. Very little resistance as it goes into material, so it's good for food prep, it's good for slicing up cardboard or papers or whatever else. It's going to slice into any material that you cut this way very nicely, but at the same time as it's a great slicer, because of the way they've done the drop point, it carries a lot of width right to the end. So it not only does it slice really well because it's so thin at the blade, at the edge, but it's got a lot of strength, which, you know, yes, limits the penetration ability because it's thicker, more material going into a substrate here. But look at the comparison. There's the Para 2 and there's the American Lawman. You can see the difference in the blade between those two knives, and you can see how thick that is. And so it retains a lot of thickness, therefore a lot of strength right to the tip, and you still get a nice pointy, fine cutting edge for all of those fine tasks that you want to do. The other great thing about this is all the belly. It's practically all belly, which means it's going to slice really well. It's, you know, puts it as a great knife for skinning an animal. You know, hunting season is coming up. This is September where I am as I'm recording this video. So this blade shape is extremely utilitarian. One last thing to say about the blade, and that is the Aussate steel. I've already commented on the Teflon coating. You know it's crap, you know it's coming off. But the Aussate steel that Cold Steel uses is very, very good. They use what they call a sub-zero quench. And although I'm not going to get into a whole lot of metallurgy with you, one, because I don't understand it, and two, because it's a lot of detail to get into. I've done some of the reading, but I'm still no expert for sure. Experience has taught me that Aussate from Cold Steel is excellent. I don't know if it's as good as the Aussate from SOG. They're pretty comparable. Better for sure than some of the Aussate that comes in cheaper knives. Anyway, really, really good blade for sure. The blade is a major win for this knife. So let's move into the handle and talk about whether or not it holds up. Generally speaking, I'm going to say yes, and I'll get into some of the detail. So it's obviously Cold Steel's very, very grippy G10. It is very, very grippy. It is all G10. Notice there's no stainless steel liners in there of any kind. It is totally closed construction. It does have the triad lock, and that triad lock is one of the things that is going to take this knife. If you're looking for just a knife to carry in your pocket all the time, having that triad lock takes this and puts it in a whole new category when you compare it to all the other options that are out there, because it's so strong. The closest thing to a fixed blade you're going to get. And I know there are other strong knives out there, but not for 50 bucks, right? You know, yes, you could buy a Strider, and I know they're famous for being tough as nails. You could buy a Zero Tolerance, and again, they're famous for being tough and overbuilt and strong, and that's awesome, but you're not going to touch one of those knives for 50 bucks. Which is pretty well the going rate for this one. Now here in Canada it's a little more, but I was able to get this one for the price that it should be, and so paid I think $51 for it. Exceptional blade for that price, and so tough that it's going to really excel in a lot of categories for that. Now let's get into the ergonomics. I've already said it's quite grippy. In addition to that, the handle shape is very good. And I'm a big proponent of handle shape. I don't think a knife should depend just on jimping and texturing to make it grippy. I would prefer that they design a handle that locks your hand in so that even if you're sweaty, even if you're muddy, even if it's dirty, whatever, something's filled up all the texturing in that handle, you're still going to be able to have a good grip on it. And you know, a good example of that is the Code 4. I've talked about that before. But this is a totally, totally smooth handle, and yet you can grip it like crazy. And I think that says a lot about the thought that went into that design. This design is really good as well. Most of your retention comes from handle shape, not from texturing, which I believe is important. Now, the reverse grip is also good. You know, you kind of get your thumb covering there. And because of that finger choil, you can choke up into another position and be way up there. All of these are pretty good and fairly ergonomic, except for this one thing. I would have liked to see this choil, where these two finger choils, if you just made this one a tiny bit smaller and moved this up just a little bit, I think it would have allowed for more handle in the hand. Okay, so see how much of the front of the handle is sticking out, and the back is almost gone. And if I use more of a saber grip, then it's even worse. There's actually fat on my hand that's sticking out past the handle, which is not something you expect out of an 8-inch knife. Okay, so there is that one limitation about the handle. Otherwise, it's really good. There is a lanyard hole, and it's a little bigger than a lot of Cold Steel's lanyard hole. It's not great. You'd have to strip out 550 cord to get it through there, but you could do a stripped 550 cord. And finally, the pocket clip. Everyone likes to talk about Cold Steel's pocket clip, and it is tight, and it will rip up your pockets, and it will be hard to get in and out of your pocket, especially getting it in as it comes from the factory. Now, all that I do with these, and I'm going to warn you, don't take my advice if you're not fairly confident that you can do it, and if you're not going to be really, really careful. All I do is I take usually the pry tool on my keys, this little guy. It actually works really nicely. I slide it under here, when I get a cold steel knife, slide it under there and just bend up ever so slightly, very gently. You just want to bend it so it's a little bit looser. You don't want to see a lot of light under there. You can see there's no light showing, so it's still nice and tight, but it's considerably better. One other thing I would add to this, and that is if someone from Cold Steel ever watches this video, if you could please take this little turn that your pocket clips always take. So if you look at that, you see how it goes along, it dips down, comes up, and then it turns one more time, sort of flattens out, but it even goes more than flattening out. It actually curves down a little bit. That makes it so that a typical pair of jeans will not fit in that gap. So you see there's a gap there, and the idea of the gap is to let your pants fit in, but it's too small of a gap. It needs to be just a teeny bit bigger, and it would fit a little better. I'm gonna bring in, this is Casey Lynch's pocket clip, totally awesome, bronze anodized titanium, but you see how it comes up. This goes in and out of pocket perfectly every time. The retention is perfect, and going in and out of pocket is perfect every time. Now, obviously, that's one of the advantages of a custom clip, but this is just a little bit too small. It needs to be up just a hair, and it would be better. So that's all I've got to say. You've got great blade, great lock, really grippy, really comfortable handle, all the things that you want in a knife. Plus, it's not just any lock, it's the triad lock, probably the strongest lock in a folding knife. I know we can debate about that if you really want to. I'm not going to debate. You can make all the comments you want, but in my experience, this is an exceptionally good lock. I feel more confident with this than virtually any other setup that I own, and I have quite a number of pocket knives. Overall, you have a fantastic blade in the Cold Steel American Lawman. It's excellent size for an EDC knife, easy to carry, easy to use, great blade shape, great weight, great everything. And the only drawback, of course, is that Teflon coating. And you know what? I'm going to strip it off and do something else. So it kind of gives me a fun project. And if it works out really well on this knife, guess what's going to happen to this knife? You guessed it. Yeah, I'll strip this off as well and do something different with this blade. But we're not to that point yet. For now, I'm more focused on this one. Go ahead and make a comment about any bright ideas you may have about that. That's my take on the Cold Steel American Lawman. Really, really a great knife. It comes very close to being perfect in every category. There just is not a lot wrong with this knife. And so if you're looking for a knife to carry every day, and honestly, when people ask me, and I've been saying this for a while, when people say, I just want one good knife, what do you recommend? I always say the Cold Steel American Lawman. It's great. I say equally the Code 4. Now, if someone says they want to spend a little more money, they'd like something a little nicer, they'd like something a little different, sure. Then I move into various other knives from Spyderco or Benchmade or CRKT or whatever. But in terms of just an extremely functional knife that is not going to fail you no matter what happens, you're hard-pressed to go wrong with a Cold Steel, any Cold Steel, and especially in terms of shape, size, and ergonomics, the American Lawman is outstanding. There you go, YouTube. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you soon.